what role do national symbols have in addressing inequality in South Africa? Joining us to talk about this is political analyst Dr. Somadoda Fikeni. Dr. Fikeni, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. Do national symbols in one way or another play a role in addressing issues of gender inequality?
They do, because if you do have patriarchy dominating the public spaces, it then sends a message that the dominant feature of this will be the maleness. Just like it is the case with the race, where you may find that public spaces are still mainly colonial and apartheid in nature. And public symbols do send a signal as to what is most important in any society, what is held dear, and also, more importantly, what is the collective memory that has value within a society.
And tonight, as Newzroom Afrika, we are running the hashtag Change for Her campaign, which is calling for the coat of arms to really, make a change that includes women of South Africa, looking at the two symbols there of men and asking the president to include a woman. Do you think this is a worthy cause?
It is a worthy cause, and it should be expanding not just to those coat of arms symbols. If you look, for example, at the war memorials, if you look at some of the national figures, it's mainly your men on a horse, and we have hardly seen women. Yes, in some instances, some strides have been made to include women, and iconic women such as the ones who marched on the Union Building in 1956. But more needs to be done, not only at a state level, at community levels, in some of the symbols of royalties, in some of the symbols of our institutions, including institutions of higher learning. We need to have more names, more symbols that represent diversity of our demography. With women being in the majority, they are surely in a miserable minority when it comes to public symbols.
And some are saying tonight that, to change the coat of arms is actually going to take millions. And they say that these are millions that could be directed to, a fight against poverty, a fight against racism, or any other plight in South Africa, other than this particular, call for the change in the symbol there in the coat of arms. What do you make of that? Should the funds be diverted towards other worthy causes, or should also this particular cause be looked into?
In fact, to me, it's a fallacy to say it's either or. Because most of the people who say divert funds when you start changing symbols of patriarchy usually will not have done their maths to say what is the cost they are talking about. But secondly, just take one example of swastika and the Nazism in Germany. Imagine the emotional and the psychological cost if those symbols were kept merely because it would be costly to change them. Have we quantified the cost on those who are victims, who are always reminded? That, to me, is a superficial argument when we talk of cost. The other cost is precisely the emotional, the psychological, and the perpetual marginalization of those who do not find expression in the public symbols.
And let's talk about tonight what the president had to say. South Africa entering generation unity there to try and, of course, fast-track gender inequality and looking at South Africa and just some of, the struggles that women continue to face around pay disparities, around, the lockdown having had quite an adverse impact on women. Do you think that, women should continue to push boundaries? Because some tonight are saying that really this fight is worthless and it doesn't look like anything is going to change.
Actually, the problem has always been women trying to push the boundaries. They should just redraw the boundaries, because the boundaries in the main in a patriarchal society were never meant for them. So simply doing the editing of the boundaries and tinkering with the edges is precisely the problem, because the boundaries, when redrawn, they may sometimes just allow a few women as symbols of representation to come in, but here you do need something substantially more than that.
And of course, one of the concerns then, of, as you're saying, that women should redraw the boundaries and not try to push them. Is there space for such?
The space is never granted. The space is created through struggles. Again, to hope that those who enjoy the privileges of patriarchy will suddenly have a change of heart and see the light when they benefit from that system, it is simply not possible. History tells us that you have to fight for these changes, you have to demand these changes. And if you have no chair on the table, you have to push and pull your chair into the table and create a space for yourself. If there is a glass ceiling, you break the glass ceiling